And welcome back, folks, to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. Last time we played, we did Minarakawa's full story. It ended at that point. All that's left is Kano and Aki, but Aki is on keep out, so all we can do is Kano. Now all the characters are together. So all we need to do now is, well, follow the story, I guess. Kano's cell phone rang. He saw Kuze's name on the display. Kano speaking. What the hell are you doing? The director's voice was shrill with irritation. What's the situation with Maria Osawa? I have her in custody, sir. We need to get her into quarantine immediately. I'll send a counter NBC terrorism unit to pick her up. What is a counter NBC terrorism unit? Well, a public safety mobile investigation unit belonging to the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department Public Security Bureau. Huh. The acronym NBC refers to nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. The unit not only gathers information and investigates terror incidents that make use of these means, but also deploys relief and safety restoration measures. What's your location, sir? Situation's a little complicated at the moment, Ken replied. He and Stanley made eye contact. Kano gave him a knowing nod. He knew what he needed to do here. He briefly informed Kuze of the plan to take Maria to the lab, but was careful not to mention Alfred. Please, sir, Kano said, bowing reflexively to the phone. Let me handle this. Absolutely not, Kuze exclaimed. There's no way I can allow that. We need information, Squirrel. Oh, no. There's no way I can allow that Maria Osawa... there's no way I can allow that. Maria Osawa needs to go in quarantine right now. What is quarantine? Well, let's ask the squirrel.
The act of placing infectees in isolation, such as in a medical treatment facility, in order to prevent the spread of infection. For viruses capable of airborne transmission, an airborne infection isolation room, AIIR, is often used, which employs negative air pressure to ensure that the air from within the room does not leak outside.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Squirrel. Sir, please, just give us a little more time. Giving her the antiviral is the only way we can save her. If we put her in quarantine, it'll be a death sentence. Kuze let out a growl of frustration. Kano, that isn't your decision to make. Kano had run out of arguments. It was clear that Kuze's only concern was stopping the spread of the virus. Director Kuze, are you just gonna let Maria Osawa die? We can't put the lives of everyone in Shibuya at risk in order to save a single person. I know that, sir. That's why I'm asking you to please let me go to that laboratory. And if it looks like we're not going to be able to hack the password, then at that point a quarantine can... Kano! Kuze snapped. I'm giving you an order, and I'm not accepting that order. Listen, Kuze said, how many years have you been a cop? What do you mean by that, sir? Kuze didn't reply. Is this an order from up top? What's going on here, sir? Please, I need some explanation. Stop it. You sound like a child. This is dereliction of duty. Call me a child if you want, but I'm not following an order that I know isn't right. Kano punched the end call button with his thumb. From an objective standpoint, maybe Kuze was right. They needed to think about more than just Maria. The UA virus spread through Shibuya. It would be a nightmare of epic proportions. Kano understood that perfectly, but still. He looked down at Maria's face as she lay collapsed on the floor. The girl was still alive, and Kano couldn't stand idly by and let a living, breathing person die. Consequences be damned. He wasn't going to be the one to weigh the worth of someone's life. As he stood, still clutching his cell phone, Stanley gently set a hand on his shoulder. "You did fine," he said quietly. "Alfred is in possession of the UA virus. The people of Shibuya are already in danger. He may have already released the virus in the city. If he hasn't, he may do so at any time. Right now, what we need to do is to get that antiviral and arrest Alfred. You made the right choice here. Thanks, Stanley. I appreciate hearing that." Stanley gave Kano a slap on the back. He was right. At this point, they needed to focus on the things they could still accomplish. "So guys," Aki stepped forward, "who's going to take Hitomi's sister and Keenan to the lab?" Maria was in no condition to walk, so they were going to have to take a car, which meant they needed a driver. "I only have a motorcycle license," Aki said, "and I don't know where the lab is anyhow. I should go with Maria alone." Kanan looked over at the others. "There's no way of knowing for sure when she might become contagious. We shouldn't needlessly risk exposing more people to infection." She knelt down to gather Maria in her arms. "In that case, I should drive." Kano whirled around at the sound of a new voice behind him. It's Tatno. Tatno was standing in the doorway. "You!" Aki's face went red with rage. Aki? Zip. "You!" Aki snarled. In the doorway stood a man with a cane. "Detective Tatno." Tatno. Kano and Daisuke spoke simultaneously. Now at last, Aki had a name for the assassin. It was a name he felt he heard somewhere before. "You son of a bee!" Aki roared. "What the hell are you doing here?" Tatno bowed his head profusely. "I am truly sorry." "You're sorry? Sorry don't cut it, man. Not after what you were trying to do to Hitomi." "I don't expect you to forgive me, and I intend to turn myself in to be punished for my crimes. But before I do that, please let me do what I can to help you. I think you've helped enough." Aki grabbed Tatno by the collar and drew back his fist. Kano moved to stop him, but Tatno held up a hand. "No, it's all right. Let him do as he pleases." There was no trace of the menacing expression the man had worn in their previous encounters. Aki scowled, lowered his fist, then released his hold on Tatno's collar. "Fine. Hitomi's sister needs help, so we do need a driver right now. Make sure those two get to the lab and back safely. That'll make up for that punch I didn't give you just now." Thank you. I'm so sorry. Daisuke stepped forward. No, I'm the one who should be apologizing. I'm the one who got you caught up in this. Daisuke, we really didn't grow up to be very good people, did we? No, I guess not. The two men stared obliquely at each other, shoulders slumped. In the end, Tano said, I guess we were just trying to run away from our pain. Yeah, I didn't expect my own son to be the one to teach me that. Aki turned out to be a fine young man. He's Katone's boy, after all. Guys! Aki stepped into the middle of their solemn heart-to-heart. You can get sappy all you want later. Dad, once this is all over, we're gonna go see Suzune, okay? Sure. Daisuke nodded heartily. Hold on. Kano spoke up, turning to Stanley. If these two take Maria to the lab, that leaves just us two to apprehend Alfred down at the Scramble. Is that going to be enough? I mean, Alfred's not going to show up without a plan. The more people we have on our side, the better. And I doubt we'll be able to get any help from the police. Good point, Stanley agreed. Hey, like I said, I'm here too. And I'm going with you. I'll keep Hitomi safe. Oh, look, good news. Kano, now we have 3 people. Stanley let out a sardonic laugh. Kano frowned. Aki, I appreciate the offer, but having 3 people instead of 2 won't make much of a difference. When you're not really sure of the enemy's exact plan, you really need strength in numbers. If we could set up a dragnet like the task force did this morning, that'd be ideal, but... Come on, detective, Aki said. Don't you have any idea what sort of approach this psycho might take? If I were Alfred, Kano mused, then I suppose my biggest problem would be figuring out how to get away after I've taken Hitomi's blood. Is this where Aki takes back control of SOS? I think this is where, because we saw that in the journalist's route, where he comes back begging to SOS for help. So I think that's going to come into play. Minoriyama's playthrough. Stanley nodded in agreement. I'm betting he plans to involve the UA virus. If, for instance, he tells us he set up a device somewhere to spread the virus throughout Shibuya, that prevents us from taking action against him. Aki swallowed hard. This guy wanted to unleash a killer virus in Shibuya? If he succeeded, then the town Aki had known and loved all his life would become a graveyard. Of course, that's mere conjecture, Stanley murmured. Quite frankly, even I can only guess what he's going to do. His expression was grim. Strength in numbers, huh? Aki said. So, you're saying we absolutely need more people, is that it? Essentially, yes, Stanley replied. But not just anyone, mind. If it's not a group that meshes well, it'll hinder more than it'll help. Kano folded his arms across his chest. He looked perplexed. People who mesh well together, huh? Aki had an idea. They could ask the police for backup. It might be a long shot, but it was their only move. He could ask SOS. If there was anything he could do, it was that. Obviously, eh? Obviously. They could ask the police for backup. Might be a long shot, but it was their only move. He hurriedly suggested that, but Kano just shook his head apologetically. Unfortunately, there's nobody on the force who will help us. Well, isn't there anything you can do about that? I had hoped that Director Kuze would understand, but Kano hung his head. Were they out of options then? No, there was still one last thing they could try. He knew the gang might see it as a selfish request, though. Susumu would probably be furious with them, but Aki would just have to deal with that. Even if his old pals wouldn't forgive him, if they understood that they would be helping protect Shibuya, he was sure they'd step up and take action. After all, the whole point of the gang was that it was made up of people who loved their town. Can you give me half an hour? I'm gonna try to see if I can rustle up some people. Kano straightened himself out. You think you can do it? Aki nodded assertively. Just wait here for me, okay? He said to Hitomi. She gave him a worried smile. All right, I'll be waiting. It'll be okay. Aki did his best to sound reassuring. I promise I'll bring back some help. He knew where he needed to go to. The pool hall in Uraharajuku. That was his old gang's main hangout. Running at top speed, he could probably make it in about 10 minutes. All right. Rushing out the door with a battle crowd loud enough for Kano and the others to hear from the back inside the shop. Kano, Aki sped on his way. Oh, Kano. Can't do it. Traffic on Dogonzaka was at a near standstill. Had there been some sort of major accident? As Aki ran along the roadside, he heard a middle-aged man screaming angrily. You gotta be kidding me. What do you mean no trains are stopping at Shibuya? The guy was red in the face. What the heck was going on? Aki felt compelled to stop and check things out. Calm down, old man. Aki ignored him and kept on running. What the heck is going on? Aki felt compelled to stop and check things out. Calm down, Dad. The young woman with the man must be his daughter then. How am I supposed to do that? You heard what the boy said. We have to get out of Shibuya right away. Whoa. Aki got a look at the woman's face. She was gorgeous. He had the feeling he had seen her on TV before or something. She was probably an actress, but he couldn't recall her name. Well, Aki muttered to himself, it might be pretty, but you're no Hitomi. Once more, he broke out into a run. There were a whole bunch of people walking in the direction of Route 246. It looked like folks really couldn't use the trains right now. Was this a consequence of Maria being infected with the UA virus? Then I'd better hurry. We're the only people who can fix this. Yeah! With another cry to pump himself up, Aki bolted down the sidewalk to counter the throng. Finally, he arrived at SOS's hideout. Two young men were standing by the door as lookouts. Aki recognized one of them. It was the kid whose so-called buddies had tried to shake him down earlier this afternoon. They roused themselves as Aki approached. Hey, I need to see Susumu. No can do. He's in the middle of something right now. The lookouts made no move to let him through. Aki felt a surge of resentment towards Susumu. If he'd still been in with SOS, he'd never try to post members on guard duty like they were low-ranking Yakuza thugs. Aki pressed again. Please, I need to see him. It's important. Fine then. I guess I'll have to do this the hard way. Aki forcibly shoved the two of them aside. But the two recovered quickly before he could get in the door and grabbed a hold of him and pushed him away. Look, I don't have time to screw around. Just go and tell Susumu that Aki's here. At the mention of his name, the two lookouts exchanged wary glances. All right, I'll go ask him. One of the lookouts headed inside, leaving Aki alone with the kid he helped out earlier. Do they always stick you on guard duty? The boy didn't reply. Back when I ran with SOS, we never needed anyone on lookout. We were just a bunch of guys who loved Shibuya. Had a fun time hanging out with each other. That's all it was, really. It's not Susumu's fault that SOS changed, the boy said somewhat fearfully. Lately, it's Kiryu who's been driving things. Kiryu? Oh yeah, that guy. Aki recalled his earlier run-in with him. The guy was an arrogant bully. Kiryu's planning to steal Susumu's throne. What for? The boy took a nervous look at the door before hurriedly continuing. He's trying to expand SOS's influence. And he's got a lot of people on his side. Right now, the gang's kind of split into two factions. Susumu's guys and Kiryu's guys. Finally, Aki understood what was going on. The gang members had all been acting so weird because they were caught up in some kind of internal struggle. Kiryu goes around recruiting new followers by force, and if he doesn't like you, he dishes out punishment. This month alone, he's sent 8 people to the hospital. SOS is a total mess, man. This plan of mine might not work after all. Aki felt a sinking sense of despair. If SOS was ravaged with infighting, it was doubtful that they'd heed the dangerous request he had for them. But even still, I want to be part of this gang. The boy muttered. Oh. Time for music. Aki peered at him in surprise. Why? They shake you down for dues? Stick you on guard duty? That's not a decent way to treat someone. I look up to Susumu. He treats me like he would anyone else, even though I'm way down at the bottom. And it's not just me. Susumu always puts the members of the gang before himself. That's why I want to stick with SOS. Aha. So that's it, huh? Susumu really had been trying his best. And the members of SOS, some of them at least, admired him for it, and stuck by him. Thanks, Aki said. The kid gave him a dubious look. Aki didn't know if Susumu would help him out or not, but he knew it was still worth putting their disagreements aside in order to ask. The door opened and the other lookout returned. Susumu says to come on in. Aki nodded and strode inside. Shibuya. Oh, come on. Really? Aki's protests were vehement, but he backed down at last. Tatno would escort Kanan and Maria to the lab. That left 3 to try to apprehend Alfred: Kano, Stanley, and Aki. Having only 3 people was a dicey prospect, though, so Aki took it upon himself to head out and gather some backup. Tatno got the car keys from Daisuke, then helped Kanan pick up Maria off the floor. Kano watched him warily. There was no trace of the blood-curdling expression the older detective had shown when he was holding Maria at gunpoint. His face was that of a man with responsibility, the Tatno that Kano had always known. "Are you sure you're okay doing this?" Hitomi asked Tatno. "You might get infected." "It doesn't matter. Don't you worry about me. All I care about now is helping you two if I can." He hesitated, glancing down at the unconscious girl he held. "By the way, have Maria's memories come back?" Hitomi tilted her head. "Her memories? I suspect she took a blow to the head when she was abducted. When I ran into her earlier, she didn't even know her own name." "Well, she seemed like the same sister I've always known when she came in here." "Good. Then her memory must have recovered." Kano was shocked to hear that Maria had suffered amnesia, but it explained why she hadn't contacted anyone after she'd been set free. "All right then," Tatno said. "We'll be back." Carrying Maria, he and Kanan headed for the door. "Detective Tatno." Kano called out and paused, tongue-tied. When Tatno stopped. "Tongue-tied? You wouldn't know that." There were so many things Kano wanted to say, but he couldn't find the words for any of them. "Once Maria's safe, I'll turn myself in." Tatno kept his back turned. The words were like a dagger in Kano's heart. Once this was all over, Tatno would no longer be a detective, but a criminal. Kano knew that there was no alternative, but still the realization hit him hard. "Detective Tatno, Stop your dithering." "But..." "Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever." Kano snapped back to attention at Tatno's words. That was dictum number 1. The advice that had kicked off the whole Dick Diary. "I'm not the one you should be worrying about right now," Tatno continued. "We need to save Maria Sawa's life and protect the people of Shibuya." Kano bit his lip. Yes, you're right. Kano did his best to quash his emotions. I know that, but Kano still wanted to express his regret at how things had turned out for his idol. "Yeah, Tatno is the dick." "I know that, but..." Kano still wanted to express his regret as "You really are a terrible policeman, you know." Tatno gave him the bare hint of a smile and headed out of the room. And as Kano watched him go, he realized he really didn't have anything to say. There were only 30 minutes remaining until the time when Alfred had told them Hitomi should be at the scramble. They needed to get ready for action. Is the surveillance camera system still up? Kano asked. Yes, Daisuke replied. It looks like what happened earlier was just a temporary hacking job. And will you help us? Daisuke inclined his head. What do you mean? I'd like you to keep your eye on the scramble for us. If anyone suspicious tries to get near Hitomi, let us know. Anyone suspicious? How will I know what's suspicious? Like that organ trafficker who suggested you kidnap Hitomi, Mr. Endo. It's possible that he might be Alfred. Would you be able to recognize his face? Daisuke furrowed his brow deeply as he began entering commands on his keyboard. Yeah, I don't think I could ever forget. It's because of him that He left the rest unsaid. A moment later, several of the monitors switched over to feeds from around the scramble. All right. Daisuke squinted at the images. The ADP images. I'm not sure how much help I can be, but let me at least try to atone for what I've done. Of course, and thank you. Daisuke's fingers flew over the keyboard, and soon all of the monitors were focused on the scramble and its surroundings. Then he carefully adjusted the angle and zoom for each of the cameras. Now the whole area was under total surveillance. All they had to do was to get their stakeout crew up to the scene. Where did Aki go? Kano asked Hitomi. I'm not totally sure, but I think he went to find some of his old friends. Hitomi sounded worried. Friends? Aki used to belong to a gang called SOS. Actually, he told me he was the one who formed the gang in the first place. What? Kano couldn't keep the shock from his voice. Aki was the founder of SOS? How bizarre that the two of them would wind up meeting each other this way. But I guess there was a big falling out between them. So I think he went to try and win them back over. Kano hadn't heard anything good about SOS since Aki had left them. If things had ended on bad terms between him and the gang, getting them to help might be a lost cause. And even if Aki was able to gather some people up, how much would Kano and the others be able to trust them? It'll be all right, Hitomi said, as if sensing Kano's thoughts. I'm sure Aki will bring back some of his old friends, and when he does bring them, I'm sure he'll choose people we can count on. You really trust them, don't you? Yes, Hitomi said without hesitation. Then a blush came to her cheeks. All right, I'll trust him too. It would take about 10 minutes to get from Endo Electronics to the scramble. Kano turned to Stanley. Let's plan to head out by 6:50. Stanley gave no reply. He had withdrawn to the edge of the room, where he stood lost in thought, his expression uneasy. Kano decided to leave him alone for a bit. Taking a sheet of paper from one of the desks, he began drafting a plan for positioning Aki's reinforcements around the scramble. All right, there we go. In about 5 minutes, he had drawn up a little map of the optimal places to deploy the team. It included positions for as many as 20 people Aki might bring back Kano. Kano turned around, surprised to find Stanley right behind him all of a sudden. The American looked haggard. Something the matter? Kano asked. You need to go to the scramble without me. What? Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Please don't ask me to explain. Something else has come up, and I have to see it. Sweat beaded on Stanley's brow. Whatever had happened, Kano had no doubt it was something major. And almost certainly it had something to do with Alfred. Stanley, Kano said. Please tell me, we're past the point of keeping secrets. I understand, do what you have to do and come back soon. They've come this far together. Surely it was too late to get all tight-lipped. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. Stanley dropped his eyes. Kano had a vague idea of what Stanley was up to. He probably felt he needed to keep things hidden even from his own allies in order to keep Alfred in the dark. Or at least that was Kano's guess. Or maybe he's Alfred. All right, I understand, Kano said with resignation. Do what you have to do and come back soon. With an apologetic look on his face, Stanley turned and hurried from the workroom. Kano glanced at his watch. It was coming up 6:50. Pretty soon, they'd have to head for the scramble, but Aki still hadn't returned. We need to head out soon, he said to Hitomi. You said 6:50. There's still 2 minutes to go. Kano let out a tiny sigh. He shared Hitomi's fervent hope that the reinforcements would come, but not her confidence. If Aki didn't reappear, Kano would be left to protect Hitomi all by himself. Alright, give me a second here. We gotta save the homie. And to try to apprehend Alfred as well. Would he be able to pull it off if it came to that? He'd just have to trust himself to see things through on his own. He decided to head to the scramble with Hitomi right away. No. He'd never be able to do it on his own. He decided to wait for Aki, accepting that they would be late. This wasn't about whether he could or couldn't. He would do it. He had to do it. There was no time to doubt anymore. Hitomi, I don't like having to do this, but we can't wait any longer. Seeing the look of determination on Kano's face, she gave a tiny reluctant nod. Keep out to... The scent of alcohol and cigarettes washed over him. Susumu sat on the sofa on the far end of the bar. It was where Aki used to sit back in the day. What do you want? Susumu asked immediately. Aki walked up to him, got down on his hands and knees. Huh? What are you doing down there? The hell is this all about? I need people to bring a guy down. I'm here to ask for your help. The crowd around him flew in an uproar. Peals of mocking laughter rang in Aki's ears. I know I have no right to ask you of this, but please, I really need your help. There's some guy, huh? Who? He's an international terrorist trying to get his hands on some wonder drug for a killer virus. If we don't catch him, somebody I know is going to die. And that's not all. He might try to unleash the killer virus here in the city. Susumu burst out laughing. Is this some kind of joke? You all right in the head there, Aki? The other gang members followed his lead, unleashing another storm of mockery. The laughter continued for quite some time. Finally, Aki had enough. Shut your damn mouths! Aki said nothing. He grit his teeth and stared up at Susumu. He endured the ridicule and simply stared up at Susumu. As patiently as he could, he waited for Susumu to give the proverbial nod. Finally, the laughter subsided, and Susumu crouched down and got in Aki's face. Is that how you go about asking someone a favor? Susumu growled menacingly. If you have a problem with me kowtowing like this, I can apologize some way. If you have a problem with me kowtowing like this, I can apologize some other way, all you want. But don't you care that I just told you that Shibuya's in danger? Aki's voice was unwavering. But face it, Suzumu. Isn't Shibuya the reason everyone here hangs out with each other? If you're telling me you don't want to keep your town safe, then I won't ask you guys for anything again. I withdraw my request. The two glared into each other's eyes. Then before Suzumu could reply, an odd man stepped in between them. But we already got that. It's at the end. Yeah, we already did this, so there's no reason. It has the whiff of a major scoop. Oh, we really don't need to do this. I haven't seen it. Sounds like you got an interesting story, he said. Mind letting me hear it too? You again? Didn't you already get your interview? Susumu rolled his eyes. I think Grovels here might be telling the truth. The newcomer's face was all seriousness. It lines up with the information I have. Hey Grovels, you got a second? My name is not Grovels, Aki growled. It's Aki. I'm Minoru Minorikawa, magazine reporter. And I know a bit about that stuff you were saying just now. The killer virus you mentioned is called the UA virus. That wonder drug is an antiviral medication. And the person you know who might die is Maria Osawa. Am I right? Aki was almost too shocked for words. How do you know all that? Minorikawa ignored him and turned to the SOS leader. Susumu, he said. Something really is going down in Shibuya. What are you gonna do about it, boss? Susumu bit his lip. He looked a bit conflicted. Sounds good to me, someone called out. Let's give him a hand. Aki turned to see where the voice had come from. It was Kiryu. You shut up, Susumu said with a glare. Break out of your rut, old man, Kiryu sneered. Aki's right. Aki here is right. Isn't keeping our beloved Shibuya safe what SOS does? He slipped an arm around Aki's shoulder. You're okay with that, right, Aki? Me going against Susumu's orders to help you out? Kiryu's lips pulled back in a broad, unsettling grin. But first, we have unfinished business, you and I. I mean, I'm willing to lend a hand, even though you ditched the gang and all. But first, we gotta settle our score here and now. You understand, don't you? Yeah, you're right. Kiryu grinned hungrily. It's guillotine time! A bunch of the gang members started up an eager clamor at Kiryu's pronouncement. In a matter of moments, Aki was grabbed from all sides and hoisted up on a pool table. A dozen young men held down his arms and legs, positioning him so his head jutted out past the table's edge. Kiryu brought out a steel pipe nearly a meter long. It was caked liberally with dried blood. Guillotine, guillotine, guillotine. Guillotine, guillotine, guillotine. The men of Kiryu's faction pumped their fists in the air, chanting madly. Kiryu licked his lips as if drunk off their cheers. Glancing on one side, Aki saw Minorukawa speaking emphatically to Susumu. It looked like the reporter was trying to talk some sense into the SOS leader. Man, today is my lucky day. I get to take the head of SOS's original head. Aki twisted his neck to peer up at him. Man, what point is there in taking my head right now? Oh my, you don't get it, do you? See, if I send you to the hospital, everyone in Shibuya is gonna know my name. And once I've got that big ass sign over my head, I'll be able to unite this town under my banner in one fell swoop. Kiryu's eyes were crazed and bloodshot. Then that's all the more reason for you to do as I'm asking. If you want to unite Shibuya, you have to protect it first. But if you think you can take my head to do that, then go right ahead. Even if these guys were all like Kiryu, if many of them actually showed up at the scramble, they'd be able to do far more than Aki could hope for by himself. The ultimate goal was to capture Alfred. Aki didn't care how they made that happen. He was just sorry he wouldn't get to see it through, to protect Hitomi to the very end. Okay then, Kiryu brayed. The gloves are coming off. Go on, do it. Aki braced himself. Aki balked at the last second. Wait, no, don't do it. Go on, do it. Aki braced himself. Just make sure you keep your promise. Kiryu raised the steel pipe high above his head. Then, before he brought it down, he flicked the tip of his tongue from his mouth like a snake. You dumbass, I didn't promise you nothing. Aki strained in sudden panic, but his limbs were pinned down too forcefully for him to have any hope of avoiding what's to come. But the steel pipe never struck home. Just when it was about to smash into Aki's head, Susumu grabbed hold of it. The hell are you doing? Enough of this crap, Kiryu. Susumu yanked the pipe from Kiryu's grasp and tossed it to the floor. Kiryu stood frozen in surprise, a vein pulsed angrily in his forehead. You guys too. Let him go. The toughs holding Aki down cautiously took their hands away. Kiryu let out a red-faced cry of rage. Oh, we've got unfinished business! Ignoring him, Susumu helped Aki slide off the table. Every man gets to make one request in his life that cannot be denied. You remember saying that? The words stirred up some bitter memories within Aki. Yeah, I remember. But you didn't grant me my request. No, I guess not. That's why I'm gonna heed yours, no questions asked. Susumu held out his right hand. Susumu, that'll make me the better man, finally. Aki reached out and clasped Susumu's hand in his. Yeah, Aki said, letting his relief show in his face. You're quite the guy. He's gonna get hit by a metal pipe. Susumu cracked a tiny grin. It was the sort of smile Aki had seen all the time back when he'd run into SOS. Suddenly, Susumu staggered and dropped to the floor, falling too fast to even cry out. He did get hit in the face with a pipe. Kiryu snatched the steel pipe from the floor, striking Susumu from behind once his back was turned. The hell with this? He howled like a madman. SOS doesn't belong to you guys, not anymore. I won't allow it. Aki didn't flinch. SOS doesn't belong to anyone, he said. It's not mine, it's not Susumu's, and it ain't yours. We're just a bunch of friends hanging out and having a good time. That's the only reason we get together. Nothing more, nothing less. He turned and looked slowly around the room. Hey, you guys. Do you all get together because someone told you to assemble? Do you get together to follow someone's orders? No, you don't. Of course you don't. The bar fell silent. Aki could see the young men who surrounded him exchanging glances. They could tell that his words rang true. Kiryu sighed too, and it only made him more and more agitated. Shut up! Enough with the warm fuzzies! Abruptly, he charged forward, giving the steel pipe a mighty swing. Aki managed to dodge the attack with a mere hair. By a mere hair. If it had connected, the blow might as well have knocked his head clean off. Quickly backed away. What's the matter? Kiryu taunted. How come all you do is run? The pipe crashed down onto the bar top. Bottles of beer and liquor smashed and scattered. Come on, what's the matter, Aki? Kiryu slammed his weapon onto the pool table, sending the balls scattering across the floor. Some of them collided with Susumu. Ugh. Susumu let out a faint groan. Smirking at the sound, Kiryu stalked forward towards him. Speaking of unfinished business, with a gleaming grin, Kiryu took aim at Susumu's head, lifting the pipe up high. Stop! Before he could think better of it, Aki was rushing for his fallen friend. You dumbass. Without missing a beat, Kiryu shifted his weight and swung the steel pipe at Aki's temple. What? What the hell is that? Rules of nature? Aki responded with a fast, high kick with his right leg. The steel pipe connected hard with his shin, but it was Kiryu who went reeling off balance. Kia! Aki pivoted and put all his might into a straight right into Kiryu's jaw. The blow struck home. Kiryu's head snapped back and he crumpled to the floor. There was a momentary hush of indrawn breath. Then the bar erupted in a wild clamor that practically shook the whole building. All the eyes were fixed on Aki, marveling at what they'd just seen go down. Sounds like folks were hoping for a little more of a fight. Susumu got to his feet, his left hand clutching his right shoulder. You alright? Aki asked. Mostly. I guess my shoulder took the brunt of the blow. The gang members from Kiryu's faction rushed to their unconscious leader's side. Aki shot them a steely glare. They gathered up Kiryu and dragged him out of the bar. I didn't go too far here, did I? Aki asked Susumu. Is this gonna cause trouble for you? No, I figured Kiryu would pull something like this eventually. It was just a question of when. Right. I'm sure he's gonna go gather up his own bunch after this. We'll probably end up butting heads again. Susumu didn't sound especially eager for that fight, but he didn't sound especially afraid of it either. Aki was still worried about a few things, but his friend had clearly grown as a leader. Anyhow, back to that story about you needing some manpower. Will the guys here be enough? There were about 30 gang members still in the bar. Aki looked each of them in the eye in turn. Some he knew from back in the day, while the others were fresh faces. I was born and raised in this town. I'm fond of the friends I've met here, and this has always been a great place to have a good time. And today, right here in this town, I met someone who's very special to me. And I know this doesn't involve the rest of you, but I'm willing to protect her. Aki knew he wasn't doing a great job of getting to the point, but the members of SOS listened quietly. And so, it's like, he felt like a grade schooler who didn't know the answer to a difficult question. He fussed with his hair and frowned sheepishly. Okay, so I'm not sure how to really put this, but Shibuya is a special town to me because of getting to meet people like that. And maybe, no, I mean, it's like that for you too, guys too. Don't you love Shibuya? So help me help this town. Help me help you. He bowed low and deep. I want to protect this girl who means so much to me. And the city that means so much to me as well. I know my answer. Susumu clasped a hand on Aki's shoulder. Listen up, everyone. SOS's original founder is back in action. He needs our help, and I, for one, am ready to follow him into battle. What do you say? The boys are roused up. Susumu's people let out a hearty cheer. When Aki marched back into his home, followed by 30 members of his old gang, Hitomi and Kano were obviously overjoyed to see him. Her shoulders began to tremble. Hitomi. It'll be all right. I'm a little nervous, that's all. She had a right to be nervous. Alfred was after the antiviral that she had in her bloodstream. Once he had it, Hitomi would become a liability that he'd want to dispose of. And right now, the only person who could keep her safe was Kano. He clenched his jaw tight and tried to look confident. Please, just try to relax. I'll protect you with my life if I have to. Protecting Hitomi is my job. Oh, the intro music. Aki, you're back. I said I'd see you through to the very end, didn't I? Yeah, you did. Hitomi gazed back at Aki with grateful reassurance. Kano cleared his throat softly. But Aki and Hitomi continued to stare earnestly at one another. Eventually, the tough-looking young man standing behind Aki spoke up. "I've got 30. Will that be enough?" "Yeah," Kano nodded. "That'll be fine." More importantly, have you heard what we'll be doing next? Chipmunk voice now? You serious?
Catch the bad guy. Keep Shibuya safe. Same old things we always do. Guy flashed a grin. "You got it," Kano said. "We'll be counting on you then." With 30-odd people at their disposal, they'd be able to encircle the meeting area no problem. The preparations were all set. It was time to confront Alfred at last. "All right, detective," Aki shouted. "Let's do this." Kano gave a firm nod. Nine minutes later, 6:59. Kano and the others were in position around the scramble. Each subtle tick of the second hand was like a sharp prod to Kano's nerves. His whole body was stiff with tension. They could not let themselves fail. There was too much at stake. Here, now, hundreds of thousands of lives were on the line. With Shibuya on lockdown, the area around the scramble had been seized by panic, and there had been multiple traffic collisions. The sidewalks were crowded with scared people. Overturned cars and abandoned motorcycles clogged the streets. Amidst the chaos, emergency vehicles sped by at furious speeds. But the fire, emergency personnel, even the police were short-handed. And the whole of Shibuya had begun to look like a war zone. The main roads had been blocked to normal traffic, and trains weren't stopping at the stations. In effect, the city was in a state of complete shutdown. Kano glanced again at his wristwatch. 6:59 and 10 seconds. 11, 12, 13, 14 seconds. He scarcely remembered to breathe.
Why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Hitomi stood in front of the statue of Hachiko. She wasn't carrying an attaché case this time, but the moment was otherwise a strange mirror of the stakeout at 10 o'clock that morning. She looked terrified. Kano couldn't blame her. The criminals weren't after some case full of money this time. This time, they were out for blood. Her blood. Kano did a slow scan of the area. Aki was standing not too far away. His companions were strewn about here and there, carrying on as normal. Here in Shibuya, those guys fit in with the crowd. And they had the area around Hitomi completely surrounded. Yet again, Kano looked at his watch. 6:59, 35 seconds, 36, 37, 38, 39. He forced himself to take several deep breaths. He focused on the sound of his own heartbeat and exhaled until all the breath was expelled from his lungs. And then it all started. Kano's cell phone rang. I've got him. It was Daisuke. The original trafficker who devised the kidnapping. It's him. Where is he? Kano asked. Is he close by? Got him on camera right now. He's on the other side of the intersection. Kano looked about across the scramble. There were so many people that it was hard to tell who was or wasn't suspicious. Can you describe him for me? Tall, foreign guy. The one wearing the glasses. Tall foreigner. Kano's eyes drifted over the crowd. Aha! There he was. And as he got closer, Kano's eyes went wide. This man was someone he met before. Leland Palmer, the lecturer from the English department at Hitomi and Maria's school. Is he Alfred? Palmer was walking right towards Hitomi. Hitomi didn't seem to have noticed him yet. When Kano glanced back at his wristwatch, it was 7 p.m. on the dot. When Hitomi realized Palmer was approaching her, she was too stunned to react. He walked directly at her, the corners of his mouth curling up into a smile. Hello, Hitomi, he said in English. How are you doing? Professor Palmer? What are you doing here? Hitomi's voice came out as an anxious squeak. Why, I'm here to take your blood, of course. This time he spoke Japanese, with an easy fluency totally different from his usual manner of speech. I'm the one who injected you with the UA virus. I've been waiting so long for the opportunity to arise. It's been quite agonizing, you know. Spending 6 months and more pretending to be a mild-mannered English lecturer. Professor? You're Alfred, aren't you? Let's get down to business, shall we? Neither of us have much time. Hitomi stiffened. Please, tell me the laboratory password. After I have your blood. This will only take a few seconds. I've got a device here that would make the extraction quite simple. No way. The password first. That would violate the terms we already negotiated. Hitomi and Palmer glared at one another. Alright, Hitomi said at last. Why don't you negotiate with Kanan instead? Kanan? Hitomi took her cell phone and dialed. But the phone rang repeatedly, and Kanan did not wake up. What's going on? Hitomi's face went pale. Come on, Kanan. Kanan was standing near enough to overhear the conversation. Grew increasingly anxious as he watched the pair stare at the phone. What was the right move here? Should he keep waiting? He had to hope talking to Kanan would work out. Kanan waited for the call to go through. At this point, they couldn't count on Kanan anymore. Kanan rushed into action.
Lucky, I wish you'd do all your streams with your squirrel companion. No, that's it. We're done. It's over. BAA. BBA. Bring it back. Oh, you guys.
At this point, they couldn't count on Kanan anymore. Kano rushed into action. Freeze! Kano drew his gun and trained it on Palmer. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Seizing the moment, Aki darted in to protect Hitomi. Palmer let out a tiny sigh. So you're breaking the terms we agreed upon, then? I don't negotiate with terrorists. Kano inched his way closer, his point of aim never wavering. Hitomi, call Kanan again. Hitomi dialed her cell phone. Palmer opened the attaché case he was carrying. One more move and I shoot, Kano shouted. But the terrorists ignored the warning, producing a set of small glass vessels from within the case. If you want to shoot me, then shoot me, he said. Assuming you don't mind this getting scattered about. Is that? Surely you don't need me to explain. Stanley was right. Alfred had weaponized the virus. Doing his best to conceal his horror, Kato tried to sound defiant. How can I even know that's real? You can't let that loose here. It was entirely possible that this was all a bluff. Ah, indeed. These could all be fake. Would you care to test that theory? Palmer flashed a coy smile, holding out his fistful of vials. He began to tilt them slowly back and forth, letting them clink against each other. They were fake. Or maybe they were real. Couldn't quite decide. And he couldn't take any rash action if there was even the possibility these were the real thing. Did you come all this way here to carry out a suicide attack, Mr. Alfred? Hardly. I have no desire to die here. All I want is to get rid of this girl blood, and then go quietly on my way. But that all depends on you, doesn't it? His face was overflowing with confidence. Kano couldn't shake the feeling that something was off here. Something about this man's demeanor hinted at something. Well then, what will it be? Palmer continued. Will you condemn the people of Shibuya to death? Cursing inwardly, Kano lowered his gun. Palmer flashed a triumphant grin, then resumed his stroll towards Hitomi. She stood frozen on the spot. Susumu! The shout had come from Aki. In an instant, a dozen members of SOS headed towards Palmer from all sides. Tough luck, pal. Turns out we're not actually innocent bystanders. Now it was his turn to grin. You're completely surrounded. Give up and tell us the password now. And just for the record, we ain't scared of no virus. The tough-looking young men radiated bravado. Without hesitation, they closed in around the kidnapper. Surrounded. You certainly don't look like the police. Palmer cast a bemused glance around himself. You're right about that, Aki said. I mean, just take a look. I've gathered a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down. He kept Hitomi shielded behind him while he spoke. There's no escape, he declared. You've lost. Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away. Palmer grimaced at Aki's words. I see. But it appears our negotiations are at a close. Enough of that high and mighty act. Susumu stomped aggressively towards Palmer. Hey, Kano snapped. Easy now. They couldn't risk a scuffle, sending the virus crashing to the ground. What a shame. Palmer swung his arm. Palmer swung his right arm up high. Oh no! Everyone watched in dismay as his hand shot up. The vials he'd been holding sailed upwards against the backdrop of the evening sky. Look out! Aki shouted. Catch him! Catch him! A tremendous blast blew Kano off his feet. As it crashed to the pavement, searing pain shot through his entire body. He knew at once that a bomb had gone off, but why? Didn't make any sense. Alfred had no intention of carrying out a suicidal terror attack. Kano was certain of that. If that had been his intent, he could have just done that at any time without going through the trouble of putting his whole charade. Was there some reason that this guy would blow himself up under these circumstances at this specific moment? As he lay dying, Kano had a thought. Could it be? Had Stanley not come to the scramble because he knew this was gonna happen? Stanley? Bad end.
A Stanley chapter? What? All right, new chapter. Sorry, I'm not doing the voice. When Aki marched back into his home, followed by 30 minutes of his old gang, 30 members of his old gang, Hitomi and Kano were obviously overjoyed to see him. Their happiness raised his own spirits unexpectedly high. He felt a palpable sense of accomplishment. All right, detective, Aki shouted. Let's do this. His resounding cry echoed throughout the workroom, and the gang set out for the scramble. What's the matter? Hitomi asked Aki as they made their way through the busy streets. What's the matter with what? You look pretty pale. She peered good and hard into his face. Do I now? Are you tired of something? I mean, you've been going all out all day long, after all. That's nothing. Aki kept his voice nice and bright. I'm just a little hungry, that's all. So don't worry about me, or Alfred either, okay? I swear I'll keep you safe, Hitomi. Alright. Hitomi gave a tiny nod. Maybe he's infected. Just leave it to me. Alfred's got nothing on this guy. He thumped his chest in a display of bravado, but he could feel the sweat beading on his brow. When they reached the scramble, Aki took his place at the location specified by the battle plan Kano had drawn up. Hitomi was only a few meters away. Whatever happened, he was in a good position to shield her from harm. There were 3 minutes left until the appointed rendezvous. Aki wondered what sort of person was going to show up. Still, he knew he couldn't scan the crowd too much. He needed to act as naturally as possible so Alfred wouldn't be suspicious. He risked a glance over at Hitomi. Maybe now wasn't the time for admiring, but he couldn't help but think how cute she looked. In some ways, seeing her there felt similar to when he had first seen her that morning at the very same spot. The difference was that this time, it wasn't just Hitomi's good looks that made him find her so attractive. They might have only spent a few hours together, but in that time, he'd learned a lot about her as a person. He knew what was important to her, what her worries were, her wants and desires. And also, he learned what a kind-hearted person she was. Aki recalled what had happened back in the workroom. Even though her life had been in danger all day, Hitomi had shed tears for his father and sister. She really understood people's grief and suffering. What do I do if I can't protect someone as good as her? Aki muttered under his breath, clutching his right leg. His shin was throbbing wickedly where the pipe had smashed against it. He'd been okay walking so far, but any intense fighting and the leg might just give out. But he couldn't let himself worry about that now. If it came down to it, he'd be a human shield to protect Hitomi if he had to. Aki looked at his watch. Only 1 minute to go before 7 p.m. He glanced again at Hitomi, her eyes widened with surprise. Quickly, he followed her gaze across the plaza. He spotted a tall white man approaching. Tall enemy white man. Was this guy Alfred? I think this guy is not Alfred. I think this is a decoy man. The man arrived in front of Hitomi and began speaking to her. Hitomi, Maria, even Aki's father. This must be the guy who was responsible for everything. Aki felt a pressing urge to flatten him right then and there. Yeah, Alfred would have blown himself up, exactly. Still, he knew he couldn't blow his cover until Kano gave the signal. Suppressing his raw emotions, he readied himself for action. He hurt me, and I'll hurt him back. That bill is gonna come due. Protecting Hitomi has to come first. I can't let anything happen to her. I have to set aside my hatred. Right now, I just need to focus on catching this guy. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't Kano given the signal? Brace! Suddenly, Kano rushed forward, his gun drawn. Ignoring the pain in his leg, Aki dashed for Hitomi as fast as he could. He cut in between Kano and Alfred, quickly pulling Hitomi out of danger. Hitomi! Kano shouted, "Call Kanan again." Shielded by Aki now, she brought up her cell phone and dialed the number. But some time passed and there was no answer. Had there been some kind of trouble on Kanan's end? Looking increasingly worried, Hitomi tried calling several more times. Then Alfred withdrew some strange vials from the attaché case he brought. Kano's face wavered. Alarm. This had to be the terrorist's trump card. Kano and Alfred were having some sort of debate. Aki couldn't hear the specifics, but tensions were clearly running high. Kano hesitantly lowered his gun. Alfred flashed a haughty, confident grin. "Looks like it's time for our trump card." "Susumu!" Aki shouted at the top of his lungs. At his signal, the gang emerged from the crowd and moved in en masse to hem Alfred in. Surrounded, now the terrorist was visibly at a loss. "You certainly don't look like police." "You're right about that. I mean, just take a look. I gathered up a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down." As he spoke, he made sure to keep Hitomi shielded behind him. The pain in his leg was getting worse and worse, but he tried his utmost not to let it show. "There's no escape," he declared. "You've lost." "Lost? To me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away." Alfred grimaced at Aki's words. "I see. Then it appears our negotiations are at a close." Why did he still seem so confident? Something definitely didn't feel right. He really doesn't care if he survives. Oh no. He was going to unleash the virus, accepting that it would kill him too. Alfred met Aki's eyes, and seeing the haunted realization there, the terrorist flashed a wicked and triumphant grin. "Enough of the high and mighty act," Susumu shouted. He began to stomp towards Alfred, but he didn't reach him in time. Huge explosion. His eardrums ruptured and his world was engulfed in an eerie silence as if time had stopped. As he laid crumpled on the pavement, the one thing that still rang in his ears was the tinkling of glass as countless vials smashed on the concrete. Mysterious explosion. Huh. So we have to let him talk to wait for the call to go through. Kano never answered. Did something happen to her and Tatno? Kano felt his heart pounding. Now then, shall I take what I came here for? Palmer took a step closer to Hitomi. Oh no. Oh, I don't know what to do. Go back to Aki before Hitomi's gun. Maybe we want to punch him? Protecting Hitomi? it's still the same thing. No. It's the Stanley jump. Why can I not jump to Stanley? Or is this the point where we have to have all the bad ends to actually get an ending? Hey there, fish lips. That was the stream. How are you? I don't think the game would force you to do that. You'd be surprised. Once this is all over, you're gonna have a beer with me. Sure, all right. Couldn't help but smile. It's a promise. Uh-oh. A promise these two made just now mirrors another made by a certain pair of brothers in the past. Once this is all tidied up, I'm gonna need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. That is what the younger brother said, and the older brother still feels the pain of that promise going unfulfilled. Where's the Stanley chapter? Kano glanced at his watch. Is Kano the linchpin of all of this? Yeah, so still the same thing as usual. Huh. What are we missing here? Well, we're missing the Stanley chapter, but... I think you have to earn his trust. Hmm. Yeah, we really hit a wall here. Oh, there's not much we have is the thing. Like, I remember we got stuck at one point and it was like the stupidest thing. So it might be another. You need to change Kanan and Stanley. Need to salute Tatno as he's leaving. Ah, yeah. Shoot, we're gonna have to do the whole thing. So that's good. Yes, you're right. Kano did his best to quash his emotions. Then we're good. Tatno gave a slight nod, then headed out the door. Detective Tatno! Just before the older man disappeared, Kano gave him a silent salute. It was a breach of protocol to salute while in plain clothes and without his cap. Still, it was the best way he had to let Tatno know how he felt. I'll leave the rest to you. Tatno took one last look over his shoulder. Oh, new chapter. No more goofing around. Finish this one. Oh, sorry, can't do the chipmunk there, Brelix. We can't do that. Kyozo Tatno gingerly flexed his right elbow. And it was still a little sore, but it shouldn't interfere with his ability to drive. Does it that hurt? Asked the girl called Kanan. No, I'm all right. Good thing I didn't kill you, she said, her tone matter of fact. You ought to thank that younger detective. He hadn't stopped me, you wouldn't be here right now. Is that right? Tatno looked over at Kano. He was talking to Aki and the others about something. Last time Tatno had seen Aki had been back at Katone's wake. He felt a strong surge of emotion, seeing how the boy had grown into a fine young man. Can I curry to have Alvin and the Chipmunks Full Collection Enthusiasts Band. Yes. Yes, you can curry that. Are you sure you don't mind driving? Tatno, Kanan's voice snapped Tatno back into the moment. Yes, it won't be a problem. Back when she attacked him on that rooftop, she moved too quickly for him to even get a glimpse of her face. Now that he was able to get a good look at her, he was shocked by how young she looked. And yet there was a cold gleam in her eyes, a glitter of awareness with no trace of emotion behind it whatsoever. Do it. Psych, I lied. In his long career as a detective, Tatno had seen eyes like that before. It was a look he knew well. The look of someone who had killed and had done so many times. So sorry about all this. Please look after my sister, Hitomi said. She bowed deeply. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Tatno would have liked to go on. Say that helping now was the least he could do to atone for what he's done earlier, but stopped himself there. Nothing he could say to Hitomi Isawa could possibly earn her forgiveness. Silently, Tatno lowered his head. His subsequent actions would have to make up for his crimes. He had to hope that this was possible. Kanan, you look after my sister too. Hitomi bowed once more. You two know each other? Tatno looked at the two girls in surprise. Kanan's my sister's friend, Hitomi said. I just met her for the first time today. What a strange series of events have transpired for Maria and Kanan to wind up as friends. Tatno felt a prickle of curiosity, but now was not the time for that conversation. Daisuke appeared. He had gone to fetch his key cards. His key cards? His card keys. You know where it's parked, yeah? He asked. Same as back in the day? That's right. Over where we always hung out with Katone back in grade school. All at once, Tatno was hit with a surge of childhood memories. The sky was a piercing blue. The droning of cicadas echoed in his ears. A refreshing breeze brought intermittent respite from the heat. During summer vacation, they spent their days here in the parking lot behind Daisuke's house. As Tatno and Daisuke played near the stairs at the side of the lot, the blazing sun beating down on them, Katone would always come along with some iced barley tea for them. The two boys would race to see who could drink theirs the fastest. I don't think that's good for you. The cold and fragrant tea flowed down from their welcoming throats. I wish I had a cold and fragrant tea right now. Most of the time, it was Tatno who would finish first. Daisuke often wound up choking and spitting his out. Katone would flash him a motherly and sympathetic smile. Then Daisuke would grin back at her sheepishly and fuss with his hair. That had all been nearly 40 years ago. Damn. Time sure flies. But Tatno could envision their smiles as vividly now as ever. They were his only fond memories of his childhood. Tatno took the keys from Daisuke, clutching them firmly in his fist. All right, we'll be back. He lifted Maria up, and with Kanan supporting her on the other side, began to head for the door. Then Kano called out to him. Detective Tatno, There was a look of sadness on the younger man's face. Don't let yourself become a detective like me. Tatno had the words right on the tip of his tongue, but he swallowed them back down. It suddenly seemed petty to trivialize the aspirations Kano had held for so long. Once Maria is safe, I'll turn myself in. After he made sure that Maria got to the laboratory, he would cease to be a detective. Instead, would simply be a criminal. In Japan, a charge of plotting to commit the crime of murder carries a prison term with labor of not more than 2 years. What have you done 40 years ago? Well, not drink refreshing iced tea, that's for sure. But despite the failures that had brought him to this position, nothing he said up till now had been a lie. My throat's dying. You know, I've only started drinking iced tea much later in life. Of that much, he could be proud. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. He could at least try to be the Detective Tatno he had so admired until the very end. Tatno left the room. Kano saluted him crisply. Ordinarily, a detective wouldn't salute in plain clothes or without his cap. The little breach of etiquette showed all the more clearly how Kano felt. If Tatno hadn't been holding Maria up, he would have returned the gesture. Oh. Okay, have you ever had a nice iced lemon barley? No. I haven't lived. Leaving Endo Electronics, Tatno and Kanan carried Maria up a hectic Dogenzaka. The parking lot was less than a minute away by foot. Before long, however, they found their way blocked by a veritable wall of people. It was the Riot Squad, with Kuze at the head. Riot Squad? Well, it's a police squad that carries out security and control activities in order to maintain or restore public order in the event of an emergency. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department has 9 riot police units, along with a support vehicle unit, for a total of 10 such squads. These also comprise teams that carry out specific functions, such as explosive, ordnance division, and chemical defense unit. Director Kuze, Tatno, what are you planning to do with that girl? What are you planning to do with her? I've already informed Kano that she's to be put under quarantine. If she's allowed to remain free, all of Shibuya will be in danger. Kanan took a step forward. Tatno could sense she was about to move in for the kill. Easy now, he said softly. Wait. As skilled as Kanan was, she was no match for an entire armed police squad. I'm not going to take them all on, she murmured. I'm just gonna take the man in charge hostage. Tatno swallowed. Capture Kuze, then run off? It could work. Considering the time limit they were facing, he knew that they had to find some way to force their way through here. Still, given how far they had to go to reach the laboratory, he wanted to avoid direct conflict as much as possible. Give me 1 minute. No, 30 seconds. Tatno turned and stared at Kuze. The two had known each other since their rookie days. Kuze chapter next, maybe. Director Kuze, tell me, what is it that you believe in? What I believe in? Yes, weren't you always the one who said that you needed to put faith in your subordinates no matter what? Well, yes. Yes, that's right. Kuze's eyes wavered ever so slightly. In that case, put your faith in me. No, put your faith in Kano. In Kano? He believes that saving Maria Osawa will save Shibuya. He's doing everything he can to make that happen. Kuze's lips curled into a wry grin. That sounds like Kano, alright. Always thinking in such simple terms. Usually, the simple answer is the right one, sir. People like you and me overthink things. We make them more complicated than they need to be. Just consider for a moment. Will putting Maria Osawa under quarantine clear up this case? No, it won't. So long as we don't know how she was infected with the virus, we can't rule out the possibility that other people have been infected as well. Tatno kept his eyes locked on Kuze's. Director Kuze, right now, what we need to do is, more than anything, is to get our hands on the antiviral drug. We need to be helping Kano. Please, sir. Kuze furrowed his brow in thought for a few moments, then shook his head. Thought nobody? Come on, I can't do that. You gotta understand the position I'm in. The director's voice, look at Maria. The director's voice squeaked into his childhood register. Kanan narrowed her eyes. What's this guy's deal? She whispered. Well, it's hard to explain, but when his voice gets like that, it means he was being completely serious. They were going to have to break through by force. He was confused. Now was their chance to make a run for it. Tatno signaled with his eyes to Kanan, then got ready to sprint past Kuze and his team. He didn't get the chance to, though. Ugh. Suddenly, Kuze let out a pained yelp. Then, as Tatno watched in surprise, he proceeded to collapse to the pavement. Arg! It hurts! It hurts! Have I been infected with the virus too? The riot squad immediately rushed to the director's side. As Tatno stood there, dumbstruck, Kuze secretly flashed him a knowing wink. That was a terrible performance, Kanan muttered. Yeah, but it was a tour de force as far as I'm concerned, confirmed. Inwardly, Tatno gave his boss a nod of respect. Slipping past the riot squad, he and Kanan headed to the parking lot. Several members of Kuze's team hurried to chase after them. Don't follow them! Everyone stay back! If you get too close to Maria Osawa, you'll be infected as well! The riot squad stopped in their tracks. Tatno and Kanan took the opportunity to hurry out of sight. Darting through the narrow alleyways, they arrived at the parking lot. The area had changed since Tatno's youth, but some of the old air of nostalgia still lingered. There it is. The old minivan. He spotted the minivan with Endo Electronics written on the side. Tatno gently lied Maria on the back seat. She was still apparently unconscious. Once Kanan had climbed into the passenger seat, Tatno hit the gas and sped off. How far is it to the lab? Normally it would take 15 minutes, but with this traffic, it's hard to say. Tatno avoided the stop and go of Dogenzaka, taking the side streets as he headed towards Shibuya Station. Once they had re-emerged on the main thoroughfare, however, he spotted a checkpoint set up ahead. Barricades and armored vehicles were blocking the road. The scale of the security effort showed just how grave the situation truly was. Tatno hit the brakes. What do we do? Kanan spoke without taking her eyes off the barricade ahead. Tatno thought for a few moments before arriving for an answer. They'll talk their way through. They'll have to find another way around. They'll have to plow on through. Get in the back seat, Tatno told Kanan. Why? I want you to hold on to Maria so she doesn't fall. A feisty grin came to Kanan's face. You got it. You got it. Kanan quickly clambered into the back and Tatno gunned the accelerator. It's do or die now. Tatno clenched his teeth as the van picked up speed. Then a patrol car came roaring out of the nearby side road. What the? Reflexively, Tatno eased up on the gas. The police cruiser cut in front of the minivan, turning to head right towards the roadblock. Crashing into the barricade, it plowed on through, not stopping until it slewed up onto the curb beyond. Was that Stanley? The car's impact had made enough space for another vehicle to slip in through the wake. I don't know, you probably run over the guy. All right, here we goes. The minivan barreled through the checkpoint. Tatno wondered who in the world had been driving the cruiser. Tatno's phone rang as he picked up as he sped onward. Were you able to break through safely? That was the voice of Detective Kajiwara. Tatno had thought he was at the Osawa residence. Kajiwara? That patrol car just now, was that you? The call came in from Task Force HQ, saying that Kano had found Maria. I figured maybe Kano was planning to take her to a Koshi pharmaceutical, and so I thought he'd need to make his way through one of the checkpoints here. But the fact that it was you, Detective Tatno, now that was quite unexpected. He let out a weak chuckle at Kajiwara. Are you hurt? Don't worry about me. Just please help Maria. I made a promise to her father that I'd save his daughter no matter what. Tatno could hear the energy draining from Kajiwara's voice. Understood. I'll keep that promise for you then. Thank you. The line went dead. No. Kajiwara! He crashed headlong through the barricade. There was no way he's coming out of that uninjured. I'm sorry, Kajiwara. Tatno said to himself under his breath, and thank you. He bit his lip and stepped hard on the gas again. Kajiwara! So we do have Tatno now. Okay. Even after Tatno disappeared from view, Kano remained for a long time at attention. His fingertips pressed into his temple. He squeezed his eyes shut, but still the tears he'd been holding back poured down his cheeks. Oh, so sad. There were only 30 minutes left remaining until the time when Alfred had told them Hitomi should be at the scramble. They needed to get ready for action. Is the surveillance camera still up? Kano asked. Yes. Looks like what happened earlier. We already know this. If anyone's sus gets near Hitomi, let me know. Brother. Oh, now we can do Stanley. It was 6:00 p.m. But unfortunately, we're gonna keep that for next time. We're gonna keep that for next time. That's right, because we got another stream in 2.5 hours. So we're gonna call it there for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.